Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy MKS here, back here with the fourth and final part of my shopping list for Celtic for Christmas. I hope you enjoy it, and I know I often give these life stories in the intro, but I hope you enjoy listening to my nice life story and all that kind of thing. I hope for December people will support my channel for Christmas. Yeah, I've had quite a productive day today. I woke up at a reasonable time for once, which was like about, by the time I actually got my butt out of bed, it was like 9 o'clock. A lot of times I do wake up and then go back to sleep because I don't have the actual energy to get up for whatever reason. Whether that's my depression or whatever else, I'm not sure. But anyway, maybe sometimes when I set a goal for myself, I can get up early, but I don't know, because I set goals for myself every day, but I still struggle to get up. But anyway, I went to walk. I made a few videos. I had some breakfast and I made a few videos for, and I had some Weetabix, so I was planning to go to the gym on the way back, but I made a couple of videos on the first parts, like one and two on this, and then I walked to I planned to do all four, but for better or worse, I didn't manage to do so. But I went to a church group that we go to get me and my mum to get a meal, but I actually walked this time. Like normally my mum drops me off, so I go with my mum, but I walked there and I walked back, and then I went to the gym on the way back, and I spent probably almost about an hour or so, let's say at least half an hour or 45 minutes, if not an hour, in the gym. Although I did take it a little bit easy and like not push myself that much, but I did try and push myself a little bit. But yeah, then I made part 3, and then I fell asleep on the couch, or I decided to go sleep on the couch, and then unfortunately I slept for a bit too long. I think it was like 3 or 4 hours, unfortunately. But anyway, so I didn't get as much done, quite as much as I would like. But yeah, that's my life story anyway. And then when my brother came back from work or wherever he was, the cat, he was in a really bad mood as well, because the cat, he had to go to sleep early to go to, not the cat, but my brother had to go to work the next day. Cats are lucky they don't have work. But anyway, the cat ran out of the house, and then something dropped out of the fridge and all that kind of thing. So that's a nice, cool life story. But yeah, took me about 5 to 10 minutes just to get the cat back in, so that was a bit stressful because I was worried about whether they'd be safe. But thankfully, I managed to get him in. So anyway, that's my cool life story. But on to the topic at hand. As I say, I hope football fans, and especially Celtic fans, as many football fans as possible generally, and especially all possible Celtic fans, would enjoy this. Would enjoy these videos. Can't imagine Rangers fans would, but you never know. They might enjoy mocking my madness. But anyway, I'm going to try and stop waffling. I know the intro went on a bit. Thought I'd give a nice life story, but here goes. So these are ideas number 31 to 40. 31 to 40. So here goes. So number 31. I suppose to sum it up, this is all about, like, for Christmas time, I'd love for investors, sponsors, and whoever else can put money into the club, even people to donate to the club, donators and whatnot, to donate or invest in or sponsor the club, Celtic FC, around Christmas time, as close to Christmas, if not on Christmas Day or Boxing Day or whatever, as close to Christmas as possible, certainly before New Year, hopefully, for the club to get as much investment as possible, and then in the January transfer windows to buy, the January transfer window in this case, sorry, in 2024, to buy the best possible players, as many of them as possible, the best possible goalkeepers. I'll mention that in the plural because it includes, obviously only one can be on the pitch at the same time for anyone who knows football, but on the bench as well, so the best possible squad players as well. So it'd be great to have players who can come off the bench who can do well as well, so Celtic can even compete, maybe even in Europe. Pretty cool. I'll drink to that, as I say. So that's what these videos are about, I suppose, like my Christmas shopping list, having a bit of fun, but also and hoping people will support my channel, but also at the same time, as in this case, especially Celtic fans, but also, I'll say, to put simply, as much investment as possible, as much funds into the club, and which is very important in a modern day football club, and then using those funds as well as possible, maybe getting a scouting team and things like that, and bringing in the best possible players, including squad players, from January and into the future, like continuing to improve. I suppose in a nutshell, that's what these videos are about. Number 32, on that note, as a learning from other clubs, learning what it would take to become a super successful club, as successful as possible, and winning as many trophies as possible. Number 33, I dream that the club will be welcoming of people from all backgrounds, and that I welcome all possible investors. A bit difficult because we have quite a big socialist, communist fan base in some cases, certainly socialist. And me myself, I'm not a socialist or a communist. I'm a libertarian. I think people should be as free as possible. So I disagree with a lot of fans for various reasons. One, I think it doesn't really help the club when they say like Tories not welcome or things. I think it should be welcome to people on the left and the right, and also to Tories included, and that kind of thing. People who are fiscally conservative, and that kind of anything that would benefit the club, and then the club can also use that money for good as well. Number 34. On that note, as I say, the foundation to continue to do all the good work that it has done, and again, more funds. If they donate 10% to the foundation, that could be really cool. And I'd love to hear from different fans. I forgot to say point number 33. I was thinking like freedom, as I say, but freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and I think it would be great for the fans to agree to disagree rather than argue or bicker with each other, and rather than be a divided fan base, to be united. And sometimes we're going to disagree on things. I think that's fine, but we, as I say, we should agree to disagree. That's probably one of my favourite sort of philosophies and sayings and whatnot, because I think that's really important, and it's good for peace and cohesion and that kind of thing. Negotiations, diplomacy, and that kind of thing. I think that's good for community cohesion and that kind of thing. Also, I'd love to see what Celtic can do to benefit the local community in Glasgow as well as across Scotland, especially in Glasgow itself, which, as I mentioned in parts 1, 2, and 3, I'm sure I mentioned them in all 3 parts. I know I did in at least one of them, if not 2, possibly all 3, I'm sure. But as Glasgow is such a deprived area, I think it'd be cool if the SNP and other parties in Glasgow and across Scotland worked with the club to try to cut crime and make people more healthy, which would save the NHS money and basically benefit Glasgow and even Scotland itself, hopefully, by providing 7-a-side football pitches and things like that, 5, 6, and 7-a-side football pitches and full 11-a-side pitches and all sorts of things like that, to give opportunities, even coaching opportunities, improved health opportunities and that kind of thing, which I hope will benefit the club and also Glasgow and Scotland as well. So I think there's a good argument for why local businesses, political parties, politicians, the local council in Glasgow, or even councils across Scotland, because they could send people from across Scotland and maybe even other deprived areas of the UK to get opportunities to play football at Glasgow, at Celtic, which I hope will benefit the club and, as I say, the local community, and especially Glasgow and Scotland. And again, they could perhaps work with Plaid Cymru, or however you pronounce it, in Wales. Again, I mentioned before that I'd love for them to work with the Celtic political parties and Celts from the 8 Celtic countries as well. And I think I was waffling away and I forgot to mention how I nearly moved on before I forgot to mention about how, like, and again, I know I briefly touched on this before, but how there's like a lot of IRA racing, which I disagree with, and I think the club, the fans and the club itself should stick to the Irish roots and the Celtic roots and be proud of those Celtic roots and represent Ireland and the rest of the Celtic world, the 8 Celtic countries. But at the same time, I think they should distance themselves from any violence. Obviously, a lot of Celtic fans live in the UK, and I just don't like violence anyway, but I think it would be good to have a more peaceful, peace-loving fan base. Maybe I'm very much an idealist, as you can probably tell from many of my videos, but I think at the same time, I think that they shouldn't lose the Irish connections and the connection with the country itself and the diaspora, and again, even Celtic countries. But at the same time, I think they should lose that support for the IRA and that kind of thing. and let's say any violence or extreme political ideologies. Probably slightly contradicting point number 33, but I think we should be welcoming for anyone who's not an extremist, I suppose, is a simple way of putting it. Anyone who doesn't have extreme or violent views, extremely violent views or anything like that. Anyway, moving on, number 35. And I'm not sure if I remember to mention how I love for the fans like to read. I meant to say in point number 33, like freedom of speech and freedom of expression. But I love to hear from, listen to, and read from Celtic fans. And I mentioned before about how I'd love to have a Zoom group talking to Celtic fans about what sort of things. There could be a range of things that we could discuss, like what sort of transfers they'd like to see, how the board could be ran, what different fans' opinions are, how we can agree to disagree sometimes. Some people might think the board are doing a great job, some people might want to get rid of them, some people might argue, and again, I know I mentioned this point before, but some people might argue if we get rid of them, who would we replace them with? I think if we got that, some of the Arabic money or sheikhs money like Man City have got, Newcastle and clubs like that, I'd love to see the PIF, Qatar, sports investments, Dubai, and other Arab nations and other nations from Asia and Africa, across Asia and Africa just generally as well, investing in the club. And I don't know what was at the bottom of my mug there, investing in the club. And if that was the case, maybe we could get rid of the board and get a new board in, or maybe some people might think the board are doing a great job, but I'd love to see investors having shares and equity in the club, and that kind of thing. Number 36, I'll say as many investors, sponsors and partners as possible, hopefully around the Christmas period, i.e. December, which it is now. I mean, I think we're 15 days away from Christmas, if I'm not mistaken, if my maths is right. So it'd be pretty cool. Hence why I'm discussing all of my Christmas shopping list ideas, which a lot of them are to do with football, which you can probably tell is one of my main passions in life. People say they don't enjoy football. I'm like, without football, chocolate and tea, I don't know if my life would be worth getting out of bed, to be honest. But without those sorts of things, I can't imagine if someone says they don't like football, chocolate and tea and sugar or tea. If they don't like any of those things, what do you actually like? I don't know. But I suppose people do have got different habits. But yeah, at the club, getting as many investors, sponsors and general partners as possible. I've heard this term partners as well, read this term partners, like football clubs having partners and that kind of thing, whatever that means. But all the things that make a modern football club successful, I dream for Celtic to have, and as I say, partnerships with Italian football and that kind of thing. I hope both will benefit, which is on my Christmas shopping list. Number 37, I love for the fans to connect on Zoom and look at what ideas we can share, and getting different opinions on the board, on the CEO, and like Peter Lowell, Dermot Desmond, Mark Lowell, whatever his name is, and all the other people involved in Celtic, which ones are doing a good job, if any are doing a good job, which aren't. And again, I hope there won't be too much bickering or whinging at each other. I hope we have a reasonable discussion where we can, again, agree to disagree. So again, some might think the board did a good job and some might not, but I think it's important to listen to both sides of the argument, again, in the spirit of goodwill and Christmas time. Hopefully the fans can I keep saying agree to disagree. So even if even if you don't agree with someone, you don't have to shout them down or swear at them or be rude to them or anything like that. You can just politely disagree and say, I don't agree with that one. And like sometimes you can have things like egg timers where you talk for a certain amount of time, like 3 minutes, which you can probably tell would be quite difficult for me. And then you have to listen to all the other members. Maybe for me, with my memory, I'd have to write notes on my thoughts, maybe. But you listen to other members for 3 minutes each, and each person gets their say, and we try to talk about our own points of view. So hopefully that'll be a good way for the club for fans to, as I keep saying, agree to disagree. I hope people get what I mean by that point. So if you have any questions, please fire away. Number 38, I'd love to hear from what the passion of the fans are, what the club means to them. One of the things at Celtic say, I think it was Jock Stein who said, pretty sure it was Jock Stein who said, football without the fans is nothing. On the subject of Jock Stein, I'd love to know who are people's greatest heroes for the club. When I think Jock Stein would be very high in many people's estimations. He'd probably be right up there at the top. Brother Walford, who founded the club, some of the earlier people who were involved in the founding, perhaps, if people know some of their names. People who helped to stop Rangers winning the 10, as we say, or people who helped Celtic to win. Well, Celtic, no team has won 10 in a row, but whoever helped us to get much success. I'm sure Ange Postecoglou should be up there somewhere, even though people might be disappointed that he left. I think some fans were rather harsh that he left, but I think if we look at what he did for the club and how he left the club in a good state, even though he left us quite early on, but as I say, it might have been sour, as my mum would say, because his third season might be, like many managers, it might be difficult to. Apparently, his first season's quite good, then his second season gets better, and then his third season's not as good. So you never know. Maybe he knew that, so he decided to leave. I don't know. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but he did do a lot of good for the club, whichever way you look at it. And I suppose maybe he did leave for better pay in the end, so spoiled his legacy a little bit, maybe. But we could have come out and said it earlier, but maybe he didn't want to. He had his reasons, perhaps, I don't know. But he still did a lot of good for the club. He was a grumpy git, but I think he still managed to. I mean, he probably did it for selfish reasons, if I'm honest, but he did transform the club into a very attacking team and successful team. He won 5 trophies in 2 seasons. So I don't think we can complain too much about that. Even though Celtic normally dominate Scottish football, but I still think he did a great job, and he helped Celtic to play some of our most attractive football. Even though I didn't get to watch the games, from what I heard people say, we won one game 9-0. So overall, I think he did an amazing job. And anyway, moving on. As I say, to put it simply, I'd love to know where people like Martin O'Neill, Gordon Strachan, and people like that, where they rank in the list of Celtic heroes. It'd be interesting to have a list of X number of, maybe could even have a list of 100 top Celtic heroes. It'd be quite interesting, and then narrow it down. Anywho, moving on, number 39. So hopefully by 2024, and by this time 2024 in December, a year ahead, we will have had the as much investment as possible, as much sponsorship as possible, funding and investment, and hopefully another treble next season. That'd be pretty cool, and also progression in Europe. It'd be great if we at least won a few games, and maybe even got through the group stages in the Champions League or something like that, or got to the Europa League at least, and did well there. Hey Yolanda, I hope I pronounced your name right, Yolanda. And number 40, as ever, I'd love to read from Celtic fans, and I hope I can get people like Yolanda. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name right, I think. Yolanda, how do you pronounce that? I hope I can get people like you into football, as you would call it, soccer. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up because I think it's been going for quite long. And please support my content if you'd be so kind. And I'm out. Peace out.